There we go. So I want to take a time just to real quick, it's just to discuss one of the most important update. As technology evolves, we are also evolving. So we are upgrading, we just upgraded our GIS API JavaScript from version 3 to version 4. What does that mean? Within our GIS Online, Web App Builder was built in JavaScript 3.x. The next generation that supports the new technology, JavaScript, will be either the instant apps or the experience builders. Some of the difference, some of the items that support this new upgrade is we have better mobile optimization. So for those apps that we have users that are accessing the applications through the cell phone, we have better interface. We now support 3D in the different apps together with 2D. We have a more flexible design, whether you choose experience, if you choose Experience Builder to build your new app. We have more custom workflows. Experience Builder allows you to create more custom tools for you. And it have better integration with other apps that was limited with Web App Builder. All of the ArcGIS Web App Builder application that you have built in the past are gonna be continue to be supported by Esri. So it's not that you have to rush it like, oh my God. No, we're gonna continue supporting. However, it's gonna be held back by the technology. So when it's time for you to review your applications that were built a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we are seriously recommending for you to update to the next generation, either Experience Builder or Instant App. There is no like a magic button that will do it automatically. So you will have to, with the same web map application, then build your application in Experience Builder. So real quick, so these are the two options. We have Instant App, and you may have seen it in your ArcGIS Online. This is a very simple app. You just want to do one thing in your app. We suggest then to use Instant App. Is a little bit different from Web App Builder because you won't be able just to bring different widgets and build your own. That's what we offer Experience Builder. But Instant App may be a solution if you want to put together an app that is very specific and only does one function. And for Experience Builder, when you go to Experience Builder and you choose a template, we have a tab that will have all the Web App Builder Classic interface. It's an Experience Builder, so it taps into the new JavaScript 4.x version. Here is an example of a web application, and you will see you will have on the left the selection of the widgets that you can add into your web application. A little matrix that I can share with you after this meeting. Of all the widgets, what it will be the time schedule to migrate it to Experience Builder. Some of them they are ready in Experience Builder, some of them are planned, others are to be determined either whether they're gonna support it or not. But because Experience Builder is gonna have the option to build your own widget, then it gives you more flexibility to do that. Another update is that we are in our next generation of ArcGIS Pro. We are in ArcGIS Pro 3. So when you're using ArcGIS Pro, you're probably gonna be showing those pop-up of software updates. There is two things, because it's the new generation, is also tapping into the new technology that is available with Windows operating system. So before you are allowed to install ArcGIS Pro 3, you will need to download the Microsoft.NET desktop runtime. And make sure that if you do that, has to be that same file. When you go to the Microsoft page, you're gonna have different options of different files. Just follow name by name that, because if not, that will be the wrong file and you're gonna keep getting that message. However, some of you, because of the state, you need to coordinate with ETS for that. So not only is updating to ArcGIS Pro, it will be also to download that file, Microsoft.NET desktop runtime, because that will be running on the newest technology. So just to summarize, it will require a system upgrade that the IT staff need to do before you can install a GIS Pro. One caveat, for example, if you're working with different staff in your office and they are in different versions, if you are working on 3 and you put a project together and you want to share with those other staff, they also have to be on version 3. There is no backward it's not backward compatible. However, if the staff is in 2, you can open the projects in 3. There is some also the same with the geodatabase compatibility. It's the same with the projects. And if you have any question, any assistance, the GIS State Office is here for your assistance. And that's all I have for today. Let us know in the chat if you have any question, and I'm not sure how.
There's a question. We'll be sharing the slides, and we can share the slides.
Oh yes, definitely. So yeah, John and Arthur have the slides, so feel free to share them.
Yep. And we'll ask the other presenters if it's okay to share the slides, hopefully, but we'll ask them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's it for me. Thank you. I'm trying to find the mouse.
Thanks, Gretchen. Next up, I'm going to ask Michael Wahl if he has joined the meeting to give an update from the Hawaii Geographic Information Coordinating Council, HIGICC. Michael, if you're on the line, can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. I'm right here. Thank you, Arthur. First of all, I just want to say I'm glad these meetings are back. Can you hear me?
Hang on a second. Sorry, Mike. I'm having a technical issue here.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, first of all, I'm really happy these meetings are back, Arthur. So thank you for doing this. So for the HIGICC next week, this is going to be real short. Next week, we are going to have our annual meeting. It will be on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. and that is open to the public. Anyone can join. We'll be introducing our new officers. We will announce our we won't announce it, but our scholarship winner is going to do a presentation. Her name is Kaylee Pasco, and she's a PhD student from the University of, or from Arizona State. And we are giving out the President's Award to Ken Schmidt. GIS Day is November 16th, 2022, and we are going to do a webinar with Benton Ching on the 1920 series aerial imagery project. The STEMWorks GIS Day has been postponed to the end of February. The next thing we have is there is a joint conference in March, on March 16th and 17th at the Ala Moana Hotel. And this is between the HIGICC and the Alaska Society of Professional Land Surveyors and the Hawaii Land Surveyors Association. So look for registration and news and calls for presentations on that soon. And the last thing I want to mention, oh, by the way, that conference is at the Ala Moana Hotel on March 16th and 17th. Last thing I want to say is our events committee is planning a lot of, or coming up with some ideas to have some more events coming up in this next few years. We're working on our newsletter to come out in November to say more about these things that we want to do. But in the meantime, and in the future, if you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask a GIS professional in general, you can always contact the HIGICC. I had a problem the other day at work with a GIS issue, and I went online and I was Googling everything, and it was all these chat pages from 2014 that didn't help me. And I reached out to the board of directors at the HIGICC, and within an hour I had my problem solved. So I'm not gonna say we're gonna solve everyone's problem, but if you have a cool idea for a project or have a question that we can help with, please contact us and we'll do what we can to help out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Were there any questions? Okay. Moving on. So Christine and I will be giving you some updates from the GIS program. Sorry, I'll turn my camera back on. Biggest thing on our minds right now, or the biggest thing on my mind right now, is the ESRI contract. So we're in the budgeting cycle for the biennium. And as you know, we currently have an enterprise agreement with ESRI that provides an unlimited number of desktop and server licenses for state agency users. So it's been a huge benefit for us, as well as providing the ArcGIS online mapping platform. We have a capped number of accounts there, but we're managing that pretty well. We're keeping track of that pretty well. And that also comes with some limitations on storage that we also monitor, and credits, not limitations on storage, but limitation on credits that we're managing. What I want to say about that is that, so with the biennium budgeting process, we're entering into, in FY24, we'll be entering into the third year of the current three-year enterprise agreement with ESRI. So that's the last year of that 3-year agreement that laid out the pricing for those 3 years. ETS, which has generously funded the EA for almost a decade now, is again funding that, but the procurement of that needs to be tightened up a little bit. So for this into this third year, the justifications for going with the ESRI agreement need to be kind of tightened up and strengthened. I don't think there's going to be an issue with that in this third year, but after that third year, so we're assuming that third year is going to go through. We're assuming, we're hoping. All indications are that it will probably go through. But following that, we'll be entering into sort of unknown territory or new territory where an agreement will have to be renewed, or another possibility is that there will be another provider. So ETS is going to have to put that platform out for bid for an RFP. And we don't know what that looks like. We haven't yet met with ETS, but we trying to find out a little bit more about that process and what that's going to look like, what the requirements are going to look like. So that's a little more of a question mark. Worst case scenario, if it's not an ESRI enterprise agreement, that means that currently agencies that have desktop and server licenses will be responsible for the maintenance cost of those licenses, for whatever licenses they have that they want to keep. Doesn't mean you have to keep them all, but you'll have to decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you just can't afford. That includes server licenses as well. So a big, huge, fat question mark for FY25. The problem is that everybody has to submit their biennium budgets now, or for the next session, not knowing what's going to happen in FY25. So not knowing whether or not you need to put in a budget item for that or not. And again, we don't know, ETS doesn't know yet what's going to happen. So I'll have to leave it there because we don't know much more. Does that about cover it, you think? It's a big question mark, a big concern for us. And of course, we'll be here to support you in whatever way we can. You know, before the enterprise agreement for the ELA, the statewide GIS program was here. Agencies procured their own licenses, and it's a possibility that we might return to something like that, but we just don't know. So we'll keep you up to date as soon as we know more. Okay, with that, that's my big downer news. So I wanted to point out, and I'll share my screen in a second. or I wanted to show you one of the ways that we monitor. So we have this neat little dashboard that Esri created for us that helps us monitor things like the credit usage. I mentioned credits. Each year we're allocated so many credits for our ArcGIS Online organizations, and certain things consume credits. Storing your feature services in ArcGIS Online consumes a little bit of some credits. When you do geocoding in ArcGIS Online, it consumes some credits. When you do some of the analysis in ArcGIS Online, it consumes credits. We have a huge bank of credits, but unfortunately right now there's an issue with a very large data set, and actually you can see it here. It happens to be right here. That's 40 gigs. The data set is 40 gigs. So we're trying to figure out why it's so big and trying to figure out how to reduce the size to a reasonable size. And Esri's been working with us, been helping a lot, trying to get us, help us resolve this issue. But what that means is that this 42 gigs of data that's in ArcGIS Online is consuming a lot of credits every day. And at the rate it's consuming them, we're going to actually run out of credits before the end of the year, around April or May, I think. So we're actively really trying hard to get this number down. It looks like it was an issue with connectivity. They were using, I think, Quick Capture to collect data on Molokai. And there might have been some connectivity issues that resulted in some weird data points, weird data records that are contributing to this size. It's so big, we can't back it up. It's so big that we can't compress it. So we're trying to find a solution for it. Anyway, this is a tool that we're using, and you can see it. We can do certain kinds of searches. So one thing that we do on a regular basis is look at these large items. So there's a big gap between a normal large item. 5 gigs is still pretty big, and then you jump to this 40 gig thing. So and then there's this 8 gig thing that we need to check on. But you know, this really stands out because it's so big. The other thing we can do is we can search the items that people have for things like test items. I know we all create test maps or test data that we forget about and never delete. There are hundreds of those out there. So that's another way that we can reduce the amount of storage that we're burning in ArcGIS Online. And we can enter some search terms here that will actually pull up those items. So I'm going to see if I can do that here. And we can also say, well, we're most interested in the ones that are being shared with the public. So if we do that, then we get this list, the list updates to show us all these test items that people have. So this says 4,500. There's 4,500 test items being shared with the public. And that's just the ones that are being shared with the public. If I looked for ones that are not being shared, it would be an even larger number. So this is a tool for us to help manage the platform, but we can't do it alone. And so we need to work with the agencies to kind of figure out how we can, I don't want to say move some of the responsibility to the agencies, but essentially that's what we'd like to do. Work a little more closely with the agencies to manage their own content. And I think those were the 2 main things I wanted to touch on. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christine, who's going to talk about some other updates. Yes.
Solid. Okay, let me share my screen. That's gonna be distracting. Sorry, it's distracting. Okay. That's bad. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay, aloha and welcome. My name is Christine Chaplin. I'm the GIS analyst for the statewide GIS program. I wanted to thank Arthur again for arranging the state GIS users meeting. It's my first as part of the program, and I am excited to present a few items here. Really quick, we're going to go over how to transfer content between members in an organization and changing group ownership. The second thing is ArcGIS dashboards. There's been a little bit of an update in the version of dashboards, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about it. So let's dive in.
Zero.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, hi Donovan.
Hi. What's up?
Yeah.
I'm also in the Zoom meeting for GIS now, but yeah.
Welcome, you're live.
I had some questions also in the chat. Sorry, from the last presentation.
Please put yourself on mute if you just joined us. Thank you.
Can I do the questions from the last presentation? Sorry.
Sure.
We're going to switch back to Arthur really quick. Okay.
Don't have to do the presentation. Put the slides up or anything. I can just, yeah, okay. So the first question was from Diane, and it said, I disagree with my test layers and test maps. I only have a few. Oh, yay, Diane, thank you. And from Gina, she's asking, is there a way that users can see their usage of credits, storage, etc.?
Gretchen?
You know how you go figure the user. Depending on how, so we'll check into that for you, Gina.
Sorry, Christine. That's okay. Okay, we're back. So, ArcGIS Online. Okay, so transferring content between members of an organization. So I'm going to switch to a quick demo. But the first tip I wanted to share with everybody is before you transfer content in groups, take a screenshot and save it to PowerPoint, because sometimes it doesn't go as planned, and you should know for some reason if things get lost in the mix that the content you are looking for instance, I have hundreds of layers and feature classes and web map applications, and I name them cryptically. So it would be difficult for me to find if I lost it. So I take screenshots when I do this for users. And typically, you know, you would only need to transfer your content or in groups if you're switching positions or programs, or, you know, you just wanted to, if somebody inherits one of your projects, or if you have an employee who's moving on to another job. Wink, wink, this would be perfect, especially for the program, the three of us who manage your ArcGIS Online accounts, mainly me. So this would be helping me out. So a little bit helping myself here. So really quick, I'm going to switch to show you kind of how this goes. So I have two accounts set up, and ArcGIS Online for myself, and one, I'm an admin. So some of these things are permissions based. So just so you know, oh, why is it not sharing? Let's do this again. there we go. So you're looking at my account, and what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna show you really quickly how and easily you can do this. So if you wanted to share a folder or all your content, you would go to all my content and you would select all. So you have 144. It's only gonna select the first 20, and then you can go down here and you can change the items per page. But what I'm gonna do, just for the sake of time, is I'm just going to do 2 of these, and I'm going to change the owner by clicking change owner, and then I'm going to search for myself or the person, the new user. We're going to call it the target user. And there's my target user, myself, and then I'm going to add a folder, create a new folder, and say from myself, or whoever the user is that you're switching from, and press save, and then the owner has been successfully changed. Now, this message will be an error if it's shared with a shared update group, and that is what we'll get into next. Let's see. This is the other account I just switched it to, and you should see it's from myself to myself, and those are the 2 items that I switched over to this account. So it gets complicated with groups. If you have content shared with groups, the target user must be a member in the groups that contain the content to be transferred. You can easily add a member to a group. I'm not going to go through it right now, but we have some documentation we can share with you later for that. If you're an owner of a group, you can transfer the ownership to a target user, and the shared update groups, that's typically it's a setting, and it's not on all groups. And I've taken a screenshot here of Don's shared update group for land vertebrate, and it'll say on the group right here if it's a shared update. And in that case, what you'll have to do is you'll have to unshare the content with the group, and then transfer the content to the user, and then reshare that content back with the shared group. So that's super exciting. And that's a wrap on that one. And so we have some documentation. We have the URL on the general GIS program download site if you wanted to hop on and grab it. And if you'd like, you can just email me and I'm happy to share it with you. And if you have any questions or you will have questions, I promise, do reach out and we're happy to help. Okay, and so
Outside of work.
okay, 2 questions.
Okay, Reuben, we found that there's an order for transferring ownership for items such as dashboards and survey 1 to 3. Transfer the layers and tables first, then the maps, then the dashboards, and survey 1 to 3.
Okay, so
I guess
it's an order of operations for certain applications. What Reuben is saying, that you have to transfer over the tables, the feature layers, etc., and the web app, and then the dashboards.
So maybe we can add that to our.
So I'll have to add that to the documentation.
Yeah, so that's a,
Thanks,
that's a good
Reuben.
tip, Reuben. And then project, what is the best way to transferring the content from outside organizations, like consultants or Esri? Example, the consultant firm may be maintaining the project website using ArcGIS story maps. How to get that transferred to state GIS at the end of the project?
My best advice is you have to use ArcGIS Online Assistant. And you have to, my favorite way to do this is to copy the JSON over, and then you have to reconfigure it piece by piece in ArcGIS Online and do a lot of praying.
There's no easy way.
It's not easy. That's not, yeah, but it's help. I've had to do that. For instance, for the pandemic, the city and county made a wonderful app, a dashboard, and they allowed me to copy it. And that's what was hosted on the Department of Health's website. So what I did is I had to use that same workflow I just described. You ArcGIS Online Assistant, and then copying the JSON. And, you know, to be honest, It's not terrible. You just have to play with it a little bit. And if you have trouble, feel free, just reach out.
I just want to recommend if you're bringing on a consultant, and you know ahead of time they're going to be creating content for you, just let us know. We can create an account for them in our org. And then that way they're creating the content in the org. And when they're done, all we have to do is what Christine just outlined, change the ownership. It's much easier that way. If you know up front that you're bringing on a consultant that's going to be creating content for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we can create an account for your consultant and then it'll be within our organization and then we can transfer it over to you.
And then you said, oh, I was hoping that there's a batch processing app. But yes, the easier way is just create the consultant.
Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like we have a coder out there. Okay. And I'm going to move on to the dashboards update. Okay, so back in 2021, the release of new dashboards version, it supports the same workflows as Dashboards Classic. And the benefits here are allegedly the maps can load more features faster, allegedly. There's advanced formatting using Arcade. There's a selection-based display, which I personally really enjoy. So essentially what this does is when you select something in a map or in a widget, it changes it in the map or the widget that it's connected to. And it's hard to explain, but essentially you can link them so you can make the map move to according to what you're selecting in the widget. Okay, and then there's new summary statistics for percentiles and enhanced counting, and there's additional data sources, including feature collections and CSV web layers. What happens with your ArcGIS Dashboards Classic? Well, dashboards created with Classic will open in the new version by default, and then there will be a little message that pops up telling you what to do. And I'll show you a screenshot of that in a moment. The way you can convert your Dashboards Classic to the new version is by opening an editing session and saving. It's as simple as that. Okay, here's a screenshot of what that looks like. So here's an example of a user who has an old version of Dashboards Classic. Okay, and it basically says, this dashboard was creating using the Dashboards Classic, and then it'll tell you which features aren't available, and it'll tell you that when you save it, the dashboard will be upgraded, and then if you wanted to preserve this dashboard, save or copy or edit in ArcGIS Dashboards Classic. So it gives you the options right here. And then if you wanted to figure out if you had any Dashboards Classics to be updated, you could go to your content, select your folder, all my content, filter for dashboards down here and then up here, and then sort by date. And typically those items would be pre-22-ish, and then you could open them. I think you have to open them to see if that dashboard is version. Any questions? That'll do it for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Christine. We're running a little bit behind on time, so we're just going to jump right into the presentations. Dwight and Jan, if you are online, can you go ahead and share your screen?
Sherry.
I'm sorry, I didn't give you an introduction. Dwight and Jan are with Forestry and Wildlife, DLNR Forestry and Wildlife. And I'll let them talk about the project, but you have a summary of it in the program that I haven't shared with the online people yet.
That's okay. We're gonna do it kind of joint, so I'll give the background on the project and how it evolved, and then Dwight will give a demo of the apps at the end, and we'll try to make sure that we stay on time. quick shout out to the state GIS program for supporting us through this. They definitely helped us and solve some of the issues that we came across, and we really appreciate that. Just to give a bit of background, we do work for Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I work for the forestry program. We issue permits for the forest reserve system, and the forest reserve system, just to give everybody a little bit of background, was created in 1903. It contains about 684,000 acres statewide, and they're managed for multi-use. So these things provide recreational opportunities, hunting opportunities, ecosystem services, contain native, threatened, and endangered species, among other things. The public is generally welcome into any forest reserve, provided that it's not dangerous or detrimental to human life or the sensitive resources that they contain. So this is a web map. It does have our forest reserve layer on it, and just to give you an idea of where and the size of these forest reserves. Continuing on, like I mentioned prior, we do issue permits for the forest reserve system, and it's contained within our rules. The only permit that we thus far have migrated into ArcGIS Online is our collection permits. And collection, when you want to gather something from the forest reserve system, you can do so for personal use and you get a free permit. Or if you want to do commercial activities, or depending on the amount that you're collecting, you'll be issued a commercial harvest permit. And so we do have limits on the permits that are stated in our rules, and the permit system that we created had to be designed in a way to make it easy for clerical staff that work statewide in our district offices to be able to make sure that the permits that we're issuing through this system is being issued within the limits of our rules in our administrative roles. And so this is the framework, like this is the basis of it. Like you can only issue one permit every 7 days to the same person for the same product for personal collection permits. Harvest is one permit for 30 days for the same person for the same org for the same item as well. And no more than 6 for the whole year. So just to give you an idea of the types of things that we're talking about, I put together a quick tour, and there's like bamboo in Makiki and pine boughs in Kula. And we have limits set for items as well. So there's a limit on the amount that you can collect. And if you're going to do commercial, there are prices set for not all, but some of our items. And this just gives you an idea of the types of items that we have across the state that are available. So that's Kauai, Maile, and then go down to the Jumpstart process. So we developed the applications through Esri's Jumpstart program, and they basically, our process got kind of thrown into chaos because of COVID-19. It's designed for them to come to your site and in very intensive in-person sessions, work with you to build the application that your project is set as an objective. Because of COVID-19, we were just starting when all the shutdowns started happening. And so we ended up having to put it on hold, and we had to develop a digital process, which we worked them through. I don't know how things are moving forward. I think the digital process actually made some things better and made some things worse. Communication was definitely more difficult, but we got to the goal line at the end, and that's all that matters. So you work with Esri staff. They train you and teach you and help you design the app. So it's not just building the app, but there's a transfer of knowledge. For our project, we worked with Survey 123 Connect and crowdsource. And then we also have an access database that was the original platform that we were issuing permits from, that we needed to migrate that entire data set into the ArcGIS Online cloud as well, into the system. So we had 2 jumpstarts, one for the design and app building and one for the data migration. What was nice about the digital jumpstart process is we ended up having like recordings of the meetings that we sat down to discuss and design. They provided us selected online resources, and in some cases, they even created story maps to walk us step by step through some of the configurations that we did. That was primarily for the data migration stuff, which was key because we ended up needing to redo it at the end because communication was difficult. And so we went through the steps again and fixed stuff, and we were able to get their data successfully migrated. So like I mentioned earlier, we needed to make the process easy for clerical staff. That this is not, they don't normally use ArcGIS or GIS products in their day-to-day, not at all. This is probably a lot of their first introductions into using this platform. So we needed to make the permit review system, and the most difficult thing would have been trying to check the data set to see how many permits people got and for what, and to make it easy. Esri built for us an arcade expression, and it works. We had some problems with it, but we figured it out with help of our DOFAW GIS professional staff, Dwight and Reuben. But we'll go through that and why that was, it's useful, but I don't recommend it if you don't have people to support you through if problems arise after the end of your jumpstart. Just to kind of give you an idea of the timeline that we went through. So we, the Access database that we started in 2015. And so we had 5 years of data before we started contemplating running the ArcGIS Online apps. We started building the apps in August of 2020. And the apps were completed in January 2021. So it's a lot longer than 1 week, which is what you would do in a typical jumpstart program process, depending on your app. I don't know if they do longer than a week, but for our contract, we were supposed to spend 1 week together and have it designed. Data migration started in March 2021. It completed 1 month later. Like I mentioned before, we had communication issues and the data wasn't quite cleaned and migrated properly. So we ended up using the materials that they gave to clean it up and migrate it over, and we were able to do it. And then in November 2021, we had to do statewide app training. and that was, I just scheduled meetings with all of our offices, and we trained everybody on how to do it, and we did a soft launch. And we didn't advertise it to the public. We just kind of had people stop using the Access database and start using the ArcGIS Online apps. Just to test and see how everything would work. And that's when we found that we had a problem with the arcade expression. And the arcade expression problem was we had migrated 5 years of Access data into the ArcGIS Online environment, and it slowed down the apps. And we just, I'm kind of skipping ahead, and it's mentioned lower on, but the support for this isn't covered by the customer care. So I'm very lucky that we had staff within DOFAW that was able to help us figure out and solve the problem, so that people could run the arcade expression to test if the permits people were asking for stayed within the limits of our permit roles. And it was pretty important for that to work. And they eventually got it fixed. In February 2022, we actually went ahead and launched the apps, even with the arcade expression problem. We did press releases and we made public websites, which are down below, for general public to be able to understand and use the apps and apply for their permits. And the arcade expression was finished in June 2022. So it took us, over a year from the start to have the apps completely functioning. But I think that the goal was to move our permits online, and it was nice to try and do it within ArcGIS Online because we have the enterprise license, which we hopefully continue to have in the future. And we know enough that we can even fix our own problems, and we don't have to rely on a consultant if we have to make changes. It was pretty straightforward. It is, Survey 123 Connect is a little bit more difficult than what I think a casual user is comfortable doing. I am not a GIS professional, I'm a planner. I did not do this alone. Dwight and Reuben did assist with some of the more difficult problems, but it was doable for me, and I learned a lot through the process. To make the process doable for the public, we created websites in WordPress, which is what our department's website sit, our web application for that. It presents, the rules and guidelines on what to do, and it has the web interface. That's the start of the application process. We also created another website in Experience Builder. Dwight, can you go back to, or just go to the Experience Builder website? I also created a website in Experience Builder for our staff. So I knew that I needed to have a place where they could just go and have everything they needed. And so I built this in Experience Builder. It has story maps in which it provides tutorials for them. If they forgot from their training, they can go back and look at these story maps and relearn how to figure out how to do the application process from start to finish. It provides our application links all in one place. We actually ended up working on SOPs for each district because everybody had a different workflow. We have contact information for staff for support. And so this is after the training, all I had to do was give them this one link and they had everything that they needed. And that I think has made the process of them transferring to a new technology much easier. And it also made it easier on me because there's information for them to self-help. And so that was, I think, a very useful endeavor. And from here, I'm going to pass it on to Dwight, and he's going to run through the apps real quickly.
Okay, thanks, Jan. So this would normally the homepage. This is what the general public would first see. And then normally the permittee, they would select the forest reserve that they're interested in. So in this case here, we'll click on our newest forest reserve, Pupukea Paumalu Forest Reserve. And when you click on this button, it opens up Survey 123. The good thing is that we have CSV files that self-populate like this district information in the survey, so nobody has to do any research and fill it out. The applicant just needs to fill out their name and then the day that they want to go on, like either Saturday, and in case it's raining, I want to go Sunday. They also need to default is set at 0, so just that individual person is going to go out and collect. If not, they can click yes, and then they can keep adding as many additional permittees that they want to be on the list. And then after that, as you scroll down, it gives you the location that they're going to go to, and then the items that they need to that they plan to collect. So normally folks just go out there into the forest reserve and just collect one item, but sometimes they want to collect more, so you can actually keep adding a list. You just need to make sure that you don't mix and match. So we have free items. So in this case here, if I chose bamboo poles, right, bamboo poles, stock 1. So you have 3 stocks that you can get for free for an individual. So I just chose 3, and it's 0 cost. I also chose for koahaole fruit 1 unit, which is 5 gallons, so 5 gallons of koahaole fruit, and that's free also. But if you were to mix and match, and let's say I wanted more, what's going to happen is they're going to have a warning that tells you cannot mix and match free items with a paid item. So you just need to either change the amount that you're going to collect or remove that item altogether. And then you just hit submit. And after the individual hits submit, a webhook using Power Automate will send an email to the district manager, the district office, and let them know that there is a request that was sent in. And so here, this is the back end. So we saw the front end, this is the back end, this is what the office sees. So they will like choose the, what is that? Choose the record that was submitted. And then they will, this is where our, this is our crowdsource, excuse me, this is our crowdsource app. And within the crowdsource app, this is where the Power Automate was being used. So this is where the status, as well as if there's any conflict, the Power Automate would actually review 60 records, 60 days past and 60 days prior of the date of collection that they're that they want to go out and collect, and look to see if there's any conflict. And so this is where Power Automate, Arcade expression.
Yeah.
Excuse me, arcade expression. Arcade expression kicks in. And this is where it helps the office staff with their review process. So if it is, what is that? Suggestion is approved, then you'll go in here and then you just change it from submission to approve. And then you just need to scroll down, excuse me, as you get busy. But you need to put down who authorized it. I did it myself, and what day, as well as additional rules that we have. So things that the collector needs to follow. And then when they're done with that, they just hit save. And then we view and generate the report of the permit. So when you click on that, it'll send you to the next Survey 123 report page. And initially, whatever you have selected, it'll show up here also. And on the right-hand side, it'll give you all the information of what was submitted and approved. And you can double check the work here as the location, as the items that was being collected, as well as the cost, and everything looks good. You can submit a report here or print out a report. Just to let you know, generating a report is actually half a credit. So be mindful. So that's why we have a preview sample. When you click the preview sample, it's free. So you can click it as many times as you want. But generating a permit does cost. So when we do click the preview sample, this is what it looks like. Kind of blew it up here. But it'll give, this is the actual permit, what it will look like. It have their name, what they're collecting, if there's a cost to it. And then what the office needs to make sure is that it has approved on here when they send it out. So when they send it out, they'd send it via e-sign to the permittee. And then if it is, if there's a cost involved, what happens is the permittee will come into the office to make payment and then receive the permit then. So that's pretty much the easy flow if there's no conflict. If there is a conflict, that's what I just showed to you. If there's a conflict, what's going to happen is they're going to have a suggestion denied. This is the arcade expression kicking in, and it will actually give you the record that it has the issue with. And then you just need to double check as to why this other record has an issue. I already went and looked at it, and it turns out it's the same item that was being collected within a 7-day period. So we can't have that. 8 days is fine, but anything less, there'll be a conflict. So that's a good thing. Arcade Expression also did the coloring status bar, so that does help visually for the individual. And that's about it for that. Things to consider. So that was pretty much the workflow of our apps that we had. Things to consider when it comes to personal identifiable information, so PII. So you want to make sure you work with your IT, with the state anyway, agencies need to make sure you work with your IT department on your security policies and statutes. And like we said, like I said earlier, the permits are not issued automatically. We do have a review process. It takes at least 10 days, but because people get their email notification, they can actually jump to it quicker. I've noticed a lot of them, get to it definitely within a week. And when the permits are issued, it is through e-sign. We did not explore. Sorry. Oh, anyway. We did not explore the payment because it's not cost effective. The amount of people tend to normally want free items, so they don't want to go over the maximum. But if they do, then it's a very small volume. So that's why we would, if anything, would combine it with other permits that deal with the collection of money. The last 3 bullets I have there, it's all big mahalos to Reuben. He really helped out with the survey 123 because the look and feel of it. You need to make sure that you're you need to make sure, are you working in the web browser or if you're working in the mobile app, because it does make a difference. And because we're working in the web browser, it deals with HTML coding. And the HTML coding may get depreciated, which we found out. And so hence, it wasn't working properly. And so Reuben did much research to find the correct coding. When it came to the webhooks, we do use Power Automate because it is part of our Microsoft package that we have. So there are other ones out there, like Integromat, Zapier, that can do the same thing. So it's up to the individual. And then arcade expressions can be used for advanced, more advanced formatting. So definitely you do need, definitely this was a big one, big help from Reuben too on this one here. You do need individuals that will, that have knowledge or can learn more about arcade expressions and the way its codes are created. That's all I have.
So I saw one question in the chat and it's asking, will the app suggest a new date when the permit will be acceptable in case of a conflict? And no, but staff are instructed to contact the customer and they can work through it and revise the permit to resolve the issue, and then it can be issued at that point. So are there any other questions or happy to answer? If not, thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Dwight. I wanted to say something about Arcade real quick. Arcade is an expression language. If you're a coder, it will not be totally foreign. So if you have coders in your group, in your agency, they might help. Python or JavaScript. Programmers, it will should look and feel a little familiar, so it's not totally foreign. With that, I want to move on to our next presenter. Michael Wahl is a GIS specialist with the DLNR State Historic Preservation Division. He's going to be talking about work that they're doing with to update the Ahupuaʻa layer. Michael?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me start my video up. Okay, so this is the Ahupuaʻa GIS layer story map. And the way I got involved in this project was I was hired by SHPD in 2016, and almost immediately people in the office and archaeologists around the state were like, there's problems with the Ahupuaʻa layer. You know, some of the names are wrong, some of the moku is wrong, the boundaries are wrong. And so over the years, I've had meetings on this, but it's always kind of been a back burner project, you know, because there's always like something more important to do in the moment. But this summer, I took on several interns from STEMworks, and they helped create this story map. I actually had the same issue where I was trying to transfer the story map from STEMworks to the SHPD organization, and I didn't feel like dealing with JSON and all that, and I had to do this kind of quickly, so I just recreated it. But anyway, back to this. So this is the product of that work. Initially, we wanted to start making changes. We wanted to just go in there, find the old maps, and just make the changes that we needed to make. But as we were going, I talked with the Hawaii Board of Geographic Names, and as we went on, I was finding out that there's a lot more that needs to be done to correct these Ahupuaʻa than just looking at a random map. You know, you need to consider a lot of different things. So what I'm going to do is, I think everyone here probably knows what an Ahupuaʻa is, basically, but I'm going to go over what it is, the history of Ahupuaʻa and how they have been mapped, and then talk about this workflow that we created on how someone can go and fix these Ahupuaʻa, you know, in the future when people have time to work on this project. Okay, so an Ahupuaʻa is a type of land division in traditional Hawaiian use, and you know, it's not something that's dead. So it's still around, and there's projects that are trying to revamp a lot of Ahupuaʻa. But basically, what they did about 500 years ago was they said, look, we have all these people, and we need to manage this land a lot better. And so they came up with this ingenious Ahupuaʻa system that takes in all of these all of the resources, all the animals, all of the places, and it ties it all together, and the people can live on the land sustainably. It's a very admirable subsistence strategy that I think we can all learn from. I created some of this story map I'm going to read through. Some of it I'm not, just for brevity. So the history of the Ahupuaʻa. So like I was saying, around 500 years ago, in the time of Umi, the son of the great chief Liloa, the Hawaiian Islands were divided into political regions, and they divided them up into moku, these districts, and then within the moku they had Ahupuaʻa, and within the Ahupuaʻa they had the ili kupono and the different kind of ilis. I'm trying to see if I can see them, because I can't remember the subcategories sometimes. Traditionally, these Ahupuaʻa boundaries were recorded orally through mo'olelo, which is oral history, the stories of the land that tie the people to that place. And, and so these boundaries were stored in the mental maps of Native Hawaiians, and they would use ahu or shrines and other kinds of things, sometimes trees, to mark an Ahupuaʻa boundary. But a lot of times, you know, after an ali'i would pass away and the next person would come into power, sometimes they would realign the Ahupuaʻa boundaries according to whatever system they thought was right. Traditionally, or I mean, the first paper map was actually drawn by Captain Cook when he visited, or when I don't know if visit is the right word to use, but when he came here, and he made a map of Hawaii Island showing all 6 of the moku. And so that was the first map of Ahupuaʻa in Hawaii on paper. Later on in the 1820s and 30s, there were missionaries William Ellis and Ursula Emerson who did the first kind of Ahupuaʻa maps with names and all that. But later in 1835, the Lahaina Luna School in Maui, which was all Native Hawaiians, they were making more detailed Ahupuaʻa maps that are still around to today, and a lot of the USGS and other maps that we have are kind of based off of these Lahaina Luna, original Lahaina Luna maps. This is a map of the Kalama 1838 map showing Maui, and you can see how they color coded the moku. And so Kaho'olawe is part of the Honuaula moku in Maui. I'm going to try to get through this quick. I'm sorry, but I like talking sometimes. So in 1848, the Mahele happened, and during that time, the chiefs and the konohiki, the land managers, were dividing up the land and becoming landowners, like how ownership of land was done in Europe and in the United States. And you know, this is a very controversial time because many Native Hawaiians were disenfranchised and were not able to ask for land. And so it's very important to study these documents because this is the first written record of Ahupuaʻa and all of the names of the ili and the people who became these landowners. To go back a little bit, the Ahupuaʻa system, it's something that is common throughout Polynesian cultures, but this system in Hawaii is unique in that the Ahupuaʻa is mapped out based on kinship properties. And so in other islands, it would be just about where the resources were. But here, you know, people have been here already for 500 to 1,000 years, and they needed the system to kind of manage everything. And so they came up with this Ahupuaʻa system, and they based it around the traditional property lines that had already existed. And so I think there was a lot of socio-political, cultural changes happening 500 years ago, and this was one of them. So back to where we are. During the Mahele, they made all these documents, and down here I have a note, and it's saying, you know, there's an example where a lot of Ahupuaʻa were not written down. A lot of them were not mapped out, and I don't know all the reasons. You know, maybe they were in rural areas and they couldn't travel to Honolulu to make a land claim. I'm not sure. This is a copy of what the Mahele book looks like, listing the crown and government lands. In 1862, the Boundary Commission was created to survey the Ahupuaʻa and all the claims that were made during the Mahele. And so Kapuaʻiwa, created the boundary commission in order to clarify the boundaries of Ahupuaʻa or Ili by collecting testimony of knowledgeable Kama'aina and creating surveys based thereon. So they went around and did this pretty big survey of all of these Ili and Ahupuaʻa, and as a result, they created these registered maps, which are now in the DAG's office, and back then they called it State Survey Division. I'm not sure if they still call it that or not. But in 1870, Kamehameha V created the Hawaiian Government Survey. They made all these maps based on the Mehele records, and they had the registered maps. They also came up with the Land Commission Awards in 1881, or an index of Land Commission Awards, and an index of government grants in 1886. I'm talking about these because these are all resources that we can use nowadays to map out these Ahupuaʻa. And then also at the state archives, they have many unpublished lists of land. So as we're doing research for this, we need to go into the archives and find these lists and put them, digitize them. One of the most important things of mapping the Ahupuaʻa is local knowledge. And so I'm just going to read what Gonsher and Beamer in 24 said, because I think they say it better than I do. What is the most impressive of the sources created by the Hawaiian Kingdom government, including Land Commission Awards, surveying and mapping, as well as the reports of the Boundary Commission, is that all of this work, despite the modern technologies employed, was based on traditional knowledge of land divisions and their boundaries. When you read that article by Gonsher and Beamer, they quote W.D. Alexander, who was one of the Hawaiian government surveyors. They quote him as saying that the technology they were using to survey the land at that time was like the most high tech of that time. That there were people in the United States and people in Asia and everywhere that they weren't using this technology that they were using in the state of Hawaii. And he compared it to how Iolani Palace had flushing toilets and electricity before the White House. They were very proud of the survey and the results of it. This map right here is from 1887 and in North Kohala, and it's showing these traditional boundary markers that you can find. The squares are marked ahu, or like large boulders, and then the triangles are trees. And so I think, if we're going to go out in the field and try to map these out, we can use some of these maps that are marking these locations, and we might be able to find some of these walls and boundaries and maybe even some of the old trees that they used, and then we can geo-reference these maps and get a more accurate representation in GIS. After 1893 and the American invasion and occupation, the mapping enterprise of the Hawaiian Government Survey continued without major interruption. They under the territory, they now called it the Hawaii Territory Survey. And they had this long-term goal of making a small-scale cadastral survey of the entire country of Hawaii. Under American rule, by the 1930s, they created the United States Geological Survey, and they had a lot of detailed information about Ahupuaʻa within those maps. But there are errors within the USGS maps, and so we have to be wary of that. In 1903, there was William Alexander, W.D. Alexander, one of the surveyors. He compiled and published a list of Hawaiian geographic names. Later in 1929, the territorial government did a more complete, I don't think that this is complex, but I think it means complete index of LCAs and Kuleana awards. And then in 1974, the place names of Hawaii book by Merrick Pukui was published. And so these are all resources that we can use to help us identify Ili and Ahupuaʻa as we're mapping this. Why is mapping Ahupuaʻa important? I think there's many reasons, and there's some reasons that I probably don't even know. But the way that I see it is that in Hawaiian culture, place is extremely important, and having the correct name and knowing the mo'olelo and knowing having the correct place name is very important. It ties the person to the land, to the culture, to their ancestors, to everything, to all the birds, the trees, the plants. It's very important that these names and places are mapped accurate. It shows respect to the Native Hawaiian culture and the people who worked hard to invent this system. The Ahupuaʻa as a geographic feature, it's also important for land rights issues for Native Hawaiians nowadays. I did a little diving into the boundary commissions, and the boundary commissions are run by the circuit court judges now. And there's modern rules. This HRS 664 talks all about, mapping Ahupuaʻa and making these claims. And so we need to consider that kind of legality when we're doing Ahupuaʻa. We need to make sure that that every ili is represented and every Ahupuaʻa is accurately mapped, because in the future someone might use this data to make a legal claim for some land, and so we want to make sure it's as accurate as possible. We can also create digital models of Ahupuaʻa and see how can we refurbish, how can we recreate, how can we adopt and modify and make an Ahupuaʻa system work in today's society. And there's projects out there that are dealing with this concept of a modern day Ahupuaʻa. And with all these current problems with sea level rise, food insecurity, climate change, having solutions like an Ahupuaʻa system is something that I think we can use to help protect the resources and the people in Hawaii. Okay, so in the history, I kind of went over these resources, so I'm just going to briefly go over this. The DAGS department, they maintain all of the registered maps from that time. I have a link of it here. I will share this story map once it's published. I have a couple things I need to polish up and then it'll be done. But they have a website here that you can use, and you need to download the registered map index, this is a copy of it. You can look up, I want to look up Hamakua and Ka'ala, and then you find your map number 38, and then you can go on their website, look up 38, and boom, you have your map. And so this is a really cool digital resource that we have available to us. The boundary certificates are also in the DAGS office, and I don't know if all of them are scanned, but I don't think they're available online. But I believe most of them are scanned. I've talked with Meyer Cummins, and he's given me a lot of data, and so I know there's stuff out there. This is an image showing what a boundary certificate looks like. This is one page of it, and I wanted to show this is what the notes that W.P. Alexander made on his meets and bounds for this Ahupuaʻa. And it's an Ahupuaʻa for 3,000 acres in Honolulu, Maui, to Charles Reed Bishop in 1852. And so, if we want to go through and use these, we need to look at all these meets and bounds and try to transform them into today's coordinate system and maybe find some of those boundary markers and that are in here. And because it might say in here like, oh, it's along this fence line. Well, some of these old fence lines are still there, and we can use that to our bearing with this kind of thing. Mahele testimonies. So you know, later on, they ask for testimonies on all of the land claims, and a lot of these are written in Hawaiian, and so these will need to be translated, and then extract any information that talks about the boundaries of their ili or whatever their lot is, their kuleana lot. Right here, these are all links to the different digital resources that host copies of these testimonies. We have the Papakilo database, the Ulukau database, Awakonohiki, and so on. And then OHA, they have the Kipuka database. And you know, I've talked with Zach at OHA, and he's not their GIS person anymore, but I've had conversations with him for a few times about this. And they have their own Ahupuaʻa layer, and they do edits to it. And he's created metadata showing what the changes are and all that. I see a hand. Should I stop and take a question or keep going? I don't see that.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's, you
Oh,
need to
1 minute
kinda
left. Oh
start
my
wrapping
God.
it up.
I'm going way too slow. I'm very sorry. Okay, here is the GIS layer for the Ahupuaʻa. And it's very slow, so I'm just going to move on. Problems. Not all Ahupuaʻa boundaries have been surveyed. Not every Ahupuaʻa was mapped. Some polygons cover multiple Ahupuaʻa. Some names were cut off, and then a lot of names have not been thoroughly vetted. And you can see in here, there's multiple listings for this area, and then there's one K. So that's a problem. There's one in Mohopilo. I'm going to wrap this up real quick, don't worry. And so you can see in this map, Mohopilo is written real small right here. And then you have these other names. And I'm not sure if the font size means anything or not, but somehow it got transmitted into Mohopilo being this entire thing. So I'm not sure how that happened, but that is one of the problem areas. The workflow, we need to identify problem areas. We need to research the registered maps at the DAG's office. We need to research the boundary certificates and the Mahele testimonies. Do research at the state archives. Most importantly, consult with Native Hawaiians, because they, you know, the mo'olelo did not stop. It's that information is still being passed down, and a lot of things in the Mahele weren't recorded that people still know of today. And then lastly, we need to make corrections to the state GIS layer and update a metadata document. We should have a document like this that shows every change that has been made to that layer. Moving forward, I think this is a multiple organization project, and it should include, you know, students, graduate students, and local organizations and state or agencies, all to come together to make this one layer that we can all use and reduce redundancy and all that. I want to say thank you to Meyer Cummins of the DAG's office, Renee Lewis and Bobby Kamara of the Hawaii Board of Geographic Names, Zach Smith of OHA, STEMworks, Katie Talladay, and my interns, Maddie Kogachi and Evan Lamb. You can reach me at Michael A. Wahl at hawaii.gov for any questions. Thank you for letting me present. I'm sorry if I went over.
No, thank you, Mike. That's very informative, and there are a lot of challenges in your project. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Here, I'll put my email in the message window if you guys want to email me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks again, Michael. And just let me know when your story map is available. I can send it out to the group.
We'll do it probably in a couple days.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we have a break, but we're behind time. So if you don't mind, I'm going to cut the break short to like 5 minutes. If anybody needs a bio break or just to stretch their legs. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. Thanks. Hi, everybody. We're going to start up again, and we're going to just jump right back into the presentations. Reuben Wolff is also from DLNR, Forestry and Wildlife. As you heard, he's sort of their coding guru. He's going to talk about a Python set of Python scripts that he's written. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Reuben. Go ahead and share your screen, Reuben.
Let's see, does everybody hear me? See my screen? Good? Arthur?
We can hear you online.
Yeah.
And you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so title of my talk is backup. That's my middle name. Basically been tooling around with Python scripting. It started with where I would publish things up online. I would overwrite them. They would get corrupted. There were other problems where if I deleted things in ARC Pro while I was working on a feature online and I made a mistake or something, then it was too late to fix. And so I started figuring out easier ways to create backups of starting out with feature services, the layers, tables, things like that. Jump into the basics of, you do need ArcGIS Pro. It comes, the Python 3 script, not the 2.7, but the Python 3, it comes, both come with the Pro installation. And it's advisable if you're running a big program, downloading a bunch of data, then, you should not run a lot of other programs. And you should, I like to be plugged into the internet, but if you have good Wi-Fi, it'll work as well. So you do need a ArcGIS Online account with Arc Pro. This is a handout that I can send to people if they're interested. And this is just a basic way of how I like to run these programs. It's basically a right click on this Python script and you select edit with idle ArcGIS Pro. If you don't find that on your thing, you have to set the default app. And this handout tells you how to, search for the app, and you go to ArcGIS Pro 3 and select the Python extension, and then it will run the app. So within the Python code, and I'll give you an example, you basically have options. What you would get is this text file where you have to put in your username, your password, and the item ID. I've designed this to run, to download. There's 3 different codes. One will download a single item. One will download a folder. So you put the item ID of the folder, and one will download everything in a group, and you have to put the item ID of that group. This is the for a single item. And then there's a bunch of user options. And if I go back to the to here, look at the user options, you'll notice that there's a bunch of options. Feature services, you can skip view layers, service definitions, shape files, 123s, dashboards, web maps, web map layers, all these different type of items. And in here, it'll tell you what the item type is and what your output is. So if you download a feature service, it'll create a file geodatabase locally. It'll also, all your layers will be downloaded as GeoJSON, which can be then reconfigured to the exact layer. You also get each file, each layer and table in Excel, and it downloads all your attachments. And so there's a list of options that you can choose. When you're choosing them, you have to do true or false of what you want to download. So, and then you get into running the script. So I'm going to just give you a quick example here of how you would run the script. So I've configured this to download a group. I would open it up with ArcGIS Pro. It opens up the script. And the first part of the script is all my notes and updates and stuff. Then you put in your information, you configure your options, and then you would click run, check the module. If this window pops up with no errors, you're good to go. And then you would just go run the module. And I'll let it run a little bit of the code, but we are short of time, so I don't want to run the whole code. It runs about 7 minutes long. And I'm on Zoom, so it's going to go a little slower.
So Reuben, while it's doing that, just a quick question. I'm assuming we're going to make these scripts downloadable for people or available for people to.
Okay, so the way I like to do things is that people will contact me. We'll set up a time. I like to run through it first personally, to make sure they know how to do it and that it works on their machine properly. But as you see, it finds an item, and then it goes through because the metadata for the item downloads different items differently. But I'll put my email in the chat, and if people want to talk about this and get a copy, then we can set up a time. I can email you the file and then walk you through the first time, because we have found different things. One of the issues is you also have the option of your portal. I use the Hawaii State GIS portal, but I've worked with people that they have a different portal, so you have to change that to the correct portal. It also doesn't. We had problems when items were online via a separate server. I know with the ROD server that we were having problems connecting, and so I'd like to run through it first with everybody, before they go off on their own and just start trying it, and because it is there, I try to catch as many bugs as possible, but it's it's a small code that just does a whole bunch of things, each kind of thing. So this will download a feature service. Things download differently. So this will download the Word documents, Excel, PDFs, things like that. And I need to know that it's working on your machine and so on and so forth. It'll also download web maps, not the entire web map, but the layers is layer X files, and a web map pro project. So it takes a little time. It tells you how much time has elapsed, how it's processing. And I'm going to jump in because I did run it earlier. So you see, I ran it earlier, and then I run it again, and it just creates another folder with a subscript A. But I'll open this. So this is what I downloaded from this group. There were a number of items, and just to run through, you'll see CSVs, the dashboard. It gives you the data. So this is the backbone of your dashboard. It's not, because your dashboard is basically a web page, but this is the elements within that web page. Excel files. I started out with the feature layers because I wanted to make sure that I could download it. So it's a file geodatabase and the JSON, and each one is an Excel. And then it also, if there are attachments, it'll download all your attachments so you can see all your pictures and things like that. So it's a really good way to back up all that information. And features, file geodatabase, images, a map package that I had in there, PDFs, quick capture. It's a different thing. Again, it's a JavaScript. If you mess with the quick capture, this is the backbone of the quick capture, and you can just edit if it gets corrupt, you can copy and paste this back into the QC quick capture website. Server 1 to 3, it's really nice. It'll download the server 1 to 3 the description, and then this is my survey 1, 2, 3. So it's all the, I can recreate the survey 1, 2, 3. It's got the XLS and survey 1 through 3 connect. I found that really helpful. I find it most helpful for the feature services. Before I edit, before I start messing around with it, I make a backup. I download the thing, and then it's shape files, tile maps, the web map. Again, you'll get the web map is a GeoJSON. The layers are all as layer X files. And then the MapX project, which is our pro map file. So there is backup information on the web map. You also get a metadata file that'll tell you who did the backup, what the backup was. There was, you know, if there were any errors caught, and it gives you some information. You look for errors. So there was an error that something didn't work right. So you might want to check that. It gives you all this information and how big the folder is. And this is a handy metadata file that you could just goes in the folder and tells you, you know, the last time you did this kind of backup. Let's see how we're progressing. The time it takes is variable. You know, how many files you're downloading or items, how big the items are, how complicated the items are. If it's a ton of items, it could take hours. So that's one of the reasons I like to work with people first, so they get you know, more comfortable. Because sometimes if you're going to back up a lot of work, you want to run it at the end of the day and walk away and just let it run, and hopefully it'll be finished by the morning. Go back to here. So again, your results, there's also a logging file, which is important. I showed you all this and the metadata. It does change certain names. You can't have a leading number. It doesn't like spaces. So it replaces all those things with underscores. If you run it again, it'll just create file B, file C, D, E, F, things like that. Let me see. This is my email. And I can't seem to copy it. Copy the text. I'll put that in the chat. So downloading large files will take long. There's a lot of CPU and memory and power usage sometimes if you're downloading large files. If there's errors, it talks about, you know, save the output, save the logging files. The logging files look like this, and then, you know, send that to me, contact me, so that I can try to fix and find out what's going on with the project. And this is just going to continue to run. Like I said, it takes this one particular code is downloading all the items in a test group that I created, and it takes about 7 minutes. But I just always want people to back up as much stuff as they can, especially, you know, it's just, it creates a local backup. You can always copy that file over to a portable drive or something, and you have that backup. And I am working on developing, you know, the list of options is basically what I've encountered. If people are dealing with other item types, I haven't developed how to download that until I see that item type. So it's constantly kind of improving on that. And that's about all I have to say on that. So are there any questions?
Thanks,
Like I said,
Reuben.
if you're interested, contact me, and I can send you that handout and see if you need help. Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
I
Ruben.
had a
wanted to-
question. I had a quick question.
Lisa?
Reuben, is there a way to estimate how big of a space you're going to need if you wanted to download your entire content from ArcGIS Online before you do it, to make sure that you don't over?
Nah, certain items they can't you can't estimate it beforehand. Some of the items you can, because they're actual files, you know, an image, or even a Survey 1 to 3. It's a zipped folder kind of thing. But
Yeah.
some of the other things, it's not. I have about 1,300 items in my content, and I do have a code to download everything in your content, but it hasn't been able to finish yet. It's just too many items. It times out basically, because it's all based on connectivity through the portal to the ArcGIS servers, and it's got to ping back and forth, and sometimes it just hangs, and then it tries to reconnect 2 or 3 times, and then it'll just quit. But if you talk to Brian Tucker, I know that he had what was it, like 14 or 15,000 photos, and it took hours, but it downloaded everything. So but yeah, like I said, there's some of the stuff, it's just hard to figure out how big your file is actually gonna be. That's why I like to test things out first and see,
Thanks again, Ruben. I wanted to point out that ArcGIS Online does have a way for you in the ArcGIS Online interface to back your stuff up. And that's if you go to the item details, you click on export, which creates another item in ArcGIS Online, which you can then download to your PC. But that's an item by item thing. So the huge benefit of Reuben's scripts is that you can do whole groups of stuff. And it's just a huge time saver. And it's a safety net for you, because you may or may not be aware that the ArcGIS Online platform itself does not get backed up. So if you inadvertently delete something, it might be recoverable if you let us know quickly, and we can get in touch with Esri quickly. It might be recoverable, but if not, if you wait too long, it's just gone. So again, this backup script or these backup scripts are a huge value to us.
I've also been running one that I built in, it's still under testing, where it checks to see the last. There's 2 dates like on a feature service. There's one which is the last date modified, which is the date that you changed the schema of the feature of the service. You've added a field, deleted a field, things like that. Then there's a date, the last edited, which is adding data. So I'm trying to figure out how I can run the code and check that date, and if it's less than 2 months ago, to skip it. And if it's greater than 6 months ago, then download it again. And I put that into the Windows scheduler, so it runs every day at a certain time. And so far so good, but it's still under beta. So that's a good way of downloading, backing up all your new stuff. And you can set it up to disregard the other item types that you're not interested in. So thank you.
Okay, thanks again, Reuben. Next up, we have Lisa Webster, a coworker of ours from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. She's with the Coastal Zone Management Program. I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Thanks, Arthur. Okay, let me share my screen. Do you see the whole presentation or just speaker notes?
Oh, we see everything.
Okay, great. Okay, well, good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Webster, and I am a CZM project analyst with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development Coastal Zone Management Program. And I'm going to talk to you about the process and some of the challenges and next steps that we've faced in developing the ORMP dashboard, which is built on Esri Hub technology. And I just want to note that even though our hub is called the ORMP dashboard, it's actually a hub, an Esri Hub site with dashboards built into it. So to better understand the hub site, I'll start with a background information about the Hawaii Ocean Resources Management Plan, which we also call the ORMP. The ORMP sets goals and priorities for ocean resources management and identifies management gaps that need to be addressed. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, or OPSD, serves as the lead agency to coordinate the implementation of the ORMP. And the ORMP brings together a diverse group of stakeholders and experts to collaborate on statewide issues, identify management gaps, and utilize this information to change policy. So here's a little bit of history of the ORMP. The Hawaii Coastal Zone Management Program was established in 1978, and in 1985, the first ORMP was published. The first version took a sectoral approach to agency responsibilities. And in 1995, there was a plan update which encouraged a more comprehensive management approach. In 2006, the plan update included an Ahupuaʻa approach to ecosystem management and began tracking metrics of partner agency efforts. The 2013 plan update identified 11 management priorities and encouraged interagency collaboration. And the most recent update, which was completed in 2020, identified 3 focus areas as priorities for implementation action. The 3 focus areas are development in coastal hazards, land-based pollution, and marine ecosystems. And in addition to the 3 focus areas, the plan also includes 5 management priorities, which were carried over from the 2013 version. The 5 management priorities are ocean economy, cultural heritage of the ocean, training, education, and awareness, collaboration and conflict resolution, and community and place-based ocean management practices. So the original ORMP dashboard was developed sometime around 2018, and I was involved in that as well, to help stakeholders and the public better understand the plan and their role within it, as well as to help track the metrics of ORMP partners, which comprehensively support objectives of the plan. And the first dashboard was built on Tableau platform, which some of you may remember, and included the 2013 plan's 11 management priorities, which were color-coded as seen in the slide. There was one card within each management priority for each of the metrics being measured. Clicking on the card opened a new page with text, images, and data for that metric. The Tableau platform limited the dashboard's ability to convey information and display different kinds of data, but it was all that was available at the time. And then about a year after the first dashboard was built, the state contract with Tableau ended, and we had to move the dashboard data to the OpenGov platform. And this was around the same time that we were updating the ORMP plan to its current version. So we reconfigured the data in this new dashboard to include the 3 focus areas and 5 management priorities that are in the current plan. The OpenGov platform required uploading the data tables to one site, developing the charts in a second site, and then linking the charts to the dashboard itself with very limited formatting options. And because OpenGov offered less flexibility and a less appealing user interface than the Tableau platform, we started to get interested in building a better version of the dashboard on Esri's Hub platform. So our recent outreach materials include Esri story maps and a video, and we wanted to be able to share these as a part of the ORMP dashboard. We also wanted to be able to share all of our ongoing projects and progress metrics in an attractive, user-friendly, interactive environment. Transitioning the ORMP dashboard to an Esri Hub platform offered greater versatility and flexibility in data and information sharing and allowed various Esri products to be housed in one location. Our 2020 ORMP plan update, which was completed collaboratively through a contract with PBR Hawaii, included really beautiful graphics. So we wanted to incorporate those into our hub site. And the 3 graphics on the left in this slide are the icons for each focus area. The Eva bird represents coastal hazards and development. The hollow tree represents land-based pollution. And the uhu fish represents marine ecosystems. The color sheet was also used throughout the hub site and dashboards to maintain continuity. So with assistance from Arthur and Joan, we contracted Esri services to assist in building the new ORMP dashboard. Esri put together a team that included a project manager, local Esri staff support, a user interface, user experience specialist with design and coding expertise, and an Esri dashboards expert. The right side of this slide shows the design mock-up of a landing page, which we worked on with the Esri team through an iterative process. The left side of the slide shows the landing page of our hub site split into 2 images to fit this slide. The landing page includes an overview of and link to the ORMP plan, as well as a link to the ORMP story map and CZM video mentioned previously. It also includes cards that link to pages for each focus area, as well as to a management priorities page. These pages can also be accessed through the menu at the top. So the hub pages are built by first adding a row and then adding elements to the row. Some of the available elements are shown in the left image. So this row in the center of the slide includes the background image shown on the top right, as well as a text box and several spacers located on the top, bottom, and sides. I was only able to view one spacer at a time to take the screenshot. So you'll just have to trust me that there's spacers all around. The spacers can be set to be hidden on mobile devices, creating a better user experience on smaller, narrow screens. In the photo of the ORMP plan shown on the right was added to a second text box. In the photo at the bottom right, you can see a small tab with an arrow that allows you to adjust the width of different elements within a row. So that's part of the customization of it. So each focus area has its own page within the hub, and all have similar formatting. This is the focus area 1 development and coastal hazards page, which includes a background section, project cards to highlight past and current projects, as well as an Esri dashboard. One of the challenges that we encountered while building the dashboard was that the project cards were difficult to format and required additional coding to set exact heights to ensure consistency. The project cards on each focus area page can be linked to story maps, documents, or websites, depending on what we want to share. Some don't link to anything yet, if the projects are in early stages. So a dashboard was built for each focus area to track metrics of partner agencies specific to that focus area. The management priorities page also has a dashboard. Not all of our dashboard metrics have measurable data that can be mapped or charted. For these metrics, we share an image and description, as well as a link to more information when available. Each dashboard has multiple tabs at the bottom, one for each metric. One of the highlights of this project was the flexibility of Esri dashboards. You can add images, text blocks, combinations of images and text, maps, and charts, and you can arrange them in different ways and customize fonts and colors as needed. You can also add icons and indicators and link them to charts or maps to provide summary information about metrics. Esri provides a wide array of icons, and you can also upload your own custom icons. The dashboard data can also be configured to be interactive, providing different summary data depending on what data is selected by the viewer. In this example, I clicked on the Oahu impaired streams bar, and the indicators on the top left of the dashboard were filtered to only show Oahu impaired or unimpaired streams data. One of the limitations of the dashboard is that it does not highlight both of the Oahu data bars, even though the indicators display only Oahu data for both the impaired and unimpaired streams. When editing the dashboards, you can drag elements around to different locations and you can group elements. These grouped elements can be dragged on top of one another to create tabs. You can configure the indicators in various ways, including selecting an icon, choosing its color and size, as well as assigning the location and size of the descriptive text. Data tables can be uploaded to ArcGIS Online and used to create charts, or can be joined to maps to view spatial distributions of data. Most of the data for our dashboard metrics was collected by our staff through conversations with partner agencies or by reviewing partner agency annual reports. In contrast, the data for this dashboard metric, which is tracking the number of fenced acres in DLNR priority watersheds as a part of the land-based pollution dashboard, used existing data housed within the state GIS organization on ArcGIS Online. This data was created by another agency and incorporated into our dashboard by using the publicly available data link. We were also able to add a goal line to the chart and to reformat the dates to better fit our needs. This slide shows the settings used to choose the data layer, to relabel the dates, and to create a goal line. The benefit of using existing data is that if the data is updated by the creator, those updates will automatically be displayed in our dashboard. A lesson learned during this project is that data has to be publicly shared to be viewable on the dashboard. Otherwise, anyone trying to view the dashboard will not be able to see that data and will be asked to log in. So as far as next steps are concerned, we publicly launched our ORMP Dashboard hub site in June of this year. And because we had additional time and funds available on our Esri contract, we decided to continue development of additional components of the site. We are currently working with another Esri team to develop a Survey 123 survey to collect granular social vulnerability data for coastal communities throughout Hawaii as part of our NOAA Coastal Fellow Christy Kimura's 2-year project. Survey 123 is an Esri app that can be used to create customized surveys to collect data in the field using smartphones, this data can include location and images. Surveys can be designed in ArcGIS Online with more advanced features available through the downloaded Survey 123 Connect app. So as part of this work, we are also developing a dashboard to convey the results of the survey, which will be shared on our ORMP hub site. So the dashboard shown here is not ours. It was created by Tetra Tech from Maui County, and we are using it as a template for our Survey 123 results dashboard design. The dashboard is currently being designed for public sharing, which will require offsetting or aggregating location data to protect survey participants' privacy. In addition to this public dashboard, we are considering creating more detailed dashboards to be shared internally with staff and partner agencies. So we are still trying to decide where the survey results dashboard will be housed within the hub site, but current ideas include creating a project card for this work within a focus area, or possibly also creating a separate hub page as part of a project and adding a mention of it to our landing page. And we may also explore the implementation of community logins to allow data sharing of sensitive content between state agencies and community groups. One example of how this technology might be useful is to support the DLNR DAR Kukua community-based monitoring program. DAR is working with communities to monitor opihi and other species that are not currently being monitored, and these communities might be interested in seeing the data they are collecting, but may not want this information shared publicly. And that's really all I have to share today. But please reach out to me if you have any questions, and make sure to check out the ORMP dashboard, which can be found at ormp.hawaii.gov. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions in the chat? Thank you. I'm going to move right along to Bobby Viola. Bobby Viola is joining us from Esri. He's the training coordinator for the state of Hawaii. Bobby, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share your screen. I'm sorry, you've got about 15 minutes, so I think that's a little bit shorter than you were expecting.
That's okay, Arthur. I do appreciate any time that you can give me. So let me go ahead. Hopefully my screen is now sharing.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bobby Viola, as Arthur mentioned. Arthur and team, just so you know, I did have a little bit more information to share with you, but given the amount of time that I have, I just want to get right to, I think, really the meat of it. And it's super exciting to have been a part of a couple of these calls and hear what you're learning, what's happening within the state. And so I'm going to share with you a few things about the Esri Academy. Now, hopefully the Esri Academy is familiar to some of you. For those of you who it is familiar, this may be a little bit of a refresh, or perhaps some things that you maybe haven't or considered or perhaps done before. And for those of you who aren't utilizing the Esri Academy, this is a great place for you to find the resources for any learning that you want specific to Esri software. So I'm going to focus in on two particular areas here within the Esri Academy. The first is the catalog, as well as the My Academy section. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the Academy right here with the catalog section. So you folks are familiar with things like Google search and Bing, and you enter different keywords. Esri Academy is very similar to that, meaning that you can come right to this search bar area and enter any keyword that you are looking for. The Esri Academy is a repository for over 600 resources, really split at two different types of learning: self-paced, which really gives you the convenience to learn at a time that's most convenient for you. And then the second side of that is instructor-led training, which it is with an instructor. It's obviously, when you're working with an instructor, much more immersive. It's a little more hands-on, but both are going to get you where you need to go when it comes to understanding a particular workflow. So as you'll see here, you have visibility to the public catalog, and as I said, over 600, so you can see this number. But let's say you come in here and you want to find something on ArcGIS Pro. Should you enter that, you're going to see that it's going to bounce down to only 609. Why is that? Because ArcGIS Pro is rooted in so many of the Esri products, as well as the resources here. So with the area that we really would like you to consider is just beneath that. And that's the area that is, whoops. That's the area that is right here called Browse by Topic. This Browse by Topic area, as I scroll over this, you will see that these tiles are all live. So let's say that you maybe have a workforce that's out in the field and they're collecting data. And maybe they're using a camera to take pictures, or maybe they're doing some sort of survey. As I have described that to you, you might be thinking, well, which one of these would I pick? I mean, I was talking about data. So would it be the data that we see right there? No, it wouldn't, because I was talking about a workforce that's out in the field collecting. So that takes us over here to field operations. So as I click field operations, what you can see is that this has now funneled down the resources to a much more manageable learning area. Now, we talked about capturing that data in the field, right? Using a survey, maybe taking pictures. And so we take that even further to a focus area. We click this next box here, and you see that we've gone from over 600 to over 40 to now 8. And this is a great way for you to get exactly to where it is that you want to set your focus with these learning resources. As you come into here, these are the results for this particular area. These are our catalog cards. We have 5 different course types: videos, training seminars, tutorials, web courses, and the instructor-led training. And those will be up in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see the title. Each one of these, the course type, each one of these titles that we see right here, these are live. So you can open these up. If you want to learn more about it, you can click that open and it will share with you a little bit more about where you're going to spend, in this case, the next 42 minutes. You will see a few other things in here that I want to bring to your attention. As you are enabled into the Esri Academy and you come in, there is one thing you want to be sure of, that you have come in and that you have signed in this area right here. Okay, that's number one. Number two is when you come into now one of the courses that you want to do. Let's say, for example, this was one that you wanted to do here. You'll notice that it says requires maintenance. The state of Hawaii has a maintenance subscription. So when you are enabled and you access the Esri Academy, you will see this. You have access to this course. This padlock is unlocked. Now, let's say Arthur here has been leading the meeting. I'm going to shorten Arthur's email address at arthur@stateofhawaii.gov. Arthur has access to this here because he has been enabled and he is organizationally tied. But let's say Arthur has his own Esri account. Maybe he's had it for years and it's outside of the organization. It's arthur@gmail.com. Arthur@gmail.com only has access to these resources that are free that you see right here. If Arthur@gmail were to try to take this particular course, he would not be able to do that because he is not organizationally tied and does not have a maintenance subscription. However, Arthur@hawaii.gov not only has access to these things that say requires maintenance, but also to these courses that say free. So if you have any questions about that, 2 things. If this is ever locked, it means that you have not been enabled. You want to reach out to your lead or manager or Arthur. Or secondly, what we find is that people just haven't logged in. All right. So there are some things about this here. You'll notice that if you come to something within the Esri Academy and you want to get to it at another time, let's say, you'll notice in the far right-hand corner over here, 2 little things. There's a heart and there's also a cross. If you click on this, this is going to add to a wish list. This means that you will come to it at another time. I'm going to show you how you access that in just a moment. Or you can create a learning plan. When you create a learning plan, this allows you to put a set of resources into a digital plan that you can access at any time. So you would just simply click on this. These are some that I've built most recently. But if you wanted to do this on your own, you would just simply add this to a new plan. This would open up and you can put a title, you can put a description of it, and then once completed, it is now created and you can actually share this out with other folks if you like. So the Academy over here is the next section that we're going to go to. You'll see that as I click on this box opens up right here. The dashboard is going to give you all of the resources, all of the activities, any classes that you may have coming up will all be featured in this area here. This is the wish list that I talked to you about before. As you add resources to this wish list, what the wish list understands is that you want to get to it, in this case, all the way down at the bottom. So you put this one here today. If you come in tomorrow and you do another one, or if you do one immediately following this one, it's going to end up at or beneath this one here. The wish list assumes that the first one that you put in is the one you want to get to first. So this is always going to remain at the top. However, you can move this to any location that you like. So that's how you can do it. If you decide that this is not something you want to get to, you can just simply delete that. So that is the wish list. Any resources in terms of learning plans that have been created, from the My Academy section, you browse over here to My Learning Plans, and all of the learning plans that you create will be featured in this part here. Now, I am your training consultant. I am a part of your account management team. Todd Kingman is your account manager. Adrienne Allegretti is the technical advisor. Gretchen Chikes is the solution engineer, and I am the training consultant. There is no additional cost for my services. What are those services? I can build learning plans for you. So if you have a particular need, instead of you navigating through and trying to find things that are important to you, what I do is I do that work for you and I build those learning plans. My next step is to share with you some of the learning plans. These are just kind of based on some of the discussions that we have talked about just today. We talked about dashboards. So if you wanted to learn more about dashboards, this is a resource document that I have built. As we scroll down, you'll see that it does have a live link. Every single one of these links are live. So when you click on this, this is going to bounce back into the Esri Academy. You can see that there. And this is where you will enroll in the class and begin each of its courses. So this is for dashboards. Everything is in it. I give you a little blurb about what each of these is about. And then I can take any specifics that you need and I can add them into the additional resources. So some of the things that we've been talking about are Hub, the dashboards. We talked about Survey 1, 2, 3. So all of these resources are available to you. These are just some of the examples that I built for Arthur and his department. But what I really want to share with you as you take a look at this this particular learning plan is this additional resources section, which I mentioned just a moment ago, that really takes that workflow study further. So if you knew that maybe you were looking to integrate with other apps, if you knew that maybe you were doing a dashboard, let's say, and you wanted to include Survey 1, 2, 3, not everything that you were looking for is housed within the Esri Academy, but there are resources within the Esri sphere that I can find and bring to you. And it may be a document, it may be something that we have to click open, but it's going to be specific to what you need. This is an example of what that looks like, and it's going to walk you through different steps on how to do that. So this is these are just some of the examples of what we can bring to you. Now, bouncing back, I do want to just close with one quick area right here. So as we come through this, and these are all of, you will have, as I mentioned, visibility to the public catalog, the two sides of learning, the self-paced and the instructor-led. The instructor-led does come with a cost. So as I bounce over to this, you'll see 56 different instructor-led courses that we have. Many of the learning areas that you might have interest in could potentially have an instructor-led course with it to support that workflow. For example, story maps. We'll go ahead and click on this one here. In the last 30 seconds, you'll see this has a cost of $16.40. So you'll want to get in contact with your managers to talk about attending this course. But if you do have interest in this, we do have the public schedule that you see right over here. So you would just simply come in, select your date. You would most likely choose the Pacific time zone, though we do bring these to the Hawaii time zone. If it is here, you will see it. And then you just simply move through the registration process. So I know I ran through this really quickly, but really what I want to convey to you is that I, as your training consultant, am here to support you. I'm here to support your teams. If there's a large initiative, if there's a small initiative, if there's just a workflow that you folks want to learn about, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to support you at no additional cost. Arthur, is there anything that you would like to add to this as I close?
No, thank you, Bobby, though. I do, for the people that are still online, I have a poll. Oh, and there it is. So let's see. I'm gonna launch this poll. So hopefully the people on Zoom got this poll. If you could go ahead and fill that out. It's collecting information about topics that you might want additional training. So the additional training could be, well, I'll get back to what Bobby does with the learning plans. You know, he put together some generic learning plans for us that we sent out to new people that have new accounts. in ArcGIS Online, especially if they indicate that they're going to be doing field work, or if they're going to be interested in Hub, or they're going to be using ArcGIS Pro. We'll send them the learning plans that Bobby's prepared for us. But you're certainly free to contact him on your own, or your manager may, if there are several of you that need to learn about a particular workflow. He can put together a custom learning plan for you that might better suit your needs rather than the generic ones that we have.
To access training, do they need to be logged in with their ArcGIS Online?
Yeah, so I don't know if Bobby, you gave the URL, but if you go to esri.com/training, that's the Esri Academy site that Bobby was on. In the very top right corner of that, there's a little person kind of icon. If you click on that, you can log in with your ArcGIS Online credentials, and that will then allow you access to those items that he pointed out to say requires maintenance. And use your Hawaii ArcGIS Online credentials for that. Bobby, do you want to put your email in the chat?
I sure will.
Sorry, I ended the poll because I have some other polls. We ran out of time, so I didn't really.
Great, there it is.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. So this is, and I'm sorry, we're a little bit over time now, so I know a lot of you have to go. This was our quarterly user meeting, and it is intended to be quarterly, but in between, we can certainly have shorter, maybe lunchtime brown bag sessions if people are interested in that. Oh, okay. Well, I guess people are interested in that. So we'll be reaching out to users maybe to find out what projects you guys are working on that might be of interest to share with other people. That's actually going to be a slightly longer format, so it would give you an opportunity to go into a little more in depth than we did today. And then the last one gets to what Gretchen was talking about earlier about ArcGIS Pro. We're trying to find out, and also gets back to the enterprise agreement renewal. Part of that is based on our software license deployment. So we're going to be conducting an inventory, a more full-blown inventory, a more formal inventory through your departments to find out what desktop products you're using. But we wanted to get kind of a feel for how many people are using ArcMap that may be interested in transitioning to Pro, or how many people are using Pro, how many people are using desktop versus ArcGIS Online. So this will just help us get a better handle on that. And I forget now, did anybody notice if I ended the other poll? Okay. So with that, I want to thank everybody, all the presenters, everybody still online with us. This was our first restart of the users meeting, and it seems like there's a lot of interest in this, so we'll keep it up. Next one tentatively will be scheduled for early January before Ledge starts and after the holidays, so keep an eye out for that. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.